Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I want to say a special thank you to Mayor Brian Bowman for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
We know that Manitobans are looking forward to a long weekend, a special one, a holy weekend for many Manitobans. And it's a time when many of our families will get together for family dinners and gatherings. This year, we want them to be smaller. And I want to start off with an important message for all Manitobans. Please, stay home. Stay home and stay safe. This is not the time for large family gatherings. Je veux commencer par un message important. S'il vous plaît, restez à la maison. Ce n'est pas le moment de grandes réunions de famille ou une petite vacance. Don't risk making this weekend's Easter dinner a celebration with fewer people around the kitchen table next year. Do not do that. The vast majority of Manitobans are doing just what the doctor ordered, and that is important. And to them, I say thank you. Sadly, there is a small minority of people who are not doing their part, and they continue to ignore the advice of public health experts, of the mayor, of myself, of many, many others. And they put their own health and the health of all Manitobans at risk. So today, we are announcing new measures for people who disregard the emergency orders made under the Public Health Act and the Emergency Measures Act. Aujourd'hui, nous annonçons de nouvelles amendes pour les personnes qui ne respectent pas les ordonnances d'urgence rendues en vertu de la loi sur la santé publique et de la loi sur les mesures d'urgence. We want to make sure that there is a deterrent for people who are placing others at risk by thoughtlessly not abiding by social distance rules. There will be active efforts to educate the public, as there have been and as there will continue to be. But at the end of the day, it is apparent that enforcement is needed as well. These are necessary steps to protect all of us. On the enforcement front, we are announcing today an important partnership between initially Manitoba Justice and the City of Winnipeg. We're taking a cooperative approach to our enforcement strategies. Nous adoptons une approche dure sur le point de notre stratégie d'application. To support these efforts, Manitoba Justice is partnering with the City of Winnipeg to create enforcement rules and enforcement units in Operation Safe Apart. These units will be dedicated to enforcing orders, along with providing awareness and prevention, responding to complaints, and supporting community safety officers and bylaw officers. I want to say thank you to Manitobans who have been calling into the city and calling into our information contacts as well in partnering to do the best that we can do and that they can do to assist in the health and well-being of themselves and others. I want to say again, welcome to Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being here, and over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Premier. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the invitation to join you here today. I want to begin just by acknowledging that we're on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis. I want to start by giving a really big shout out to the incredible members of our public service and Manitoba's public service who have been working around the clock to keep services moving. And I want to, of course, thank the Premier for his ongoing leadership and efforts. We've all been glued to our TVs and our computer screens watching daily updates from Dr. Brent Rusin and Lynette Saragusa. I want to specifically thank them for their strength, their dedication, and humility during this pandemic. I think they've been working 24 hours a day for the last number of months, including through weekends. We're very fortunate to have them. And I want them to know we're extremely grateful for their tireless work that they're putting in that's providing assistance to Winnipeggers. I'd also like to thank Jay Shaw. He's the head of our emergency operations at the City of Winnipeg's team, and thank him for his ongoing leadership and contributions to today's announcement. He's been an instrumental part of the city's response and deserves a lot of credit for what the work that he's leading. I also want to give a big shout out to all of the members of our community who are staying home, who are practicing physical distancing if they have to go out, and respecting the measures that have been enacted by our provincial government. It's a very surreal time right now that we're all living through, and we're navigating, and we know it's difficult. It's been incredibly heartwarming to see our community pulling together to help each other out and do their part to stay home. And I want to say thank you. And while almost all are doing their part, there is a small segment of our community that's not getting the message. With Easter weekend upon us, a time that's typically set aside for gatherings in our community, I want to renew the calls to respect the public health orders. The measures put in place by the Manitoba government and the corresponding measures we've enacted at the city are there for the safety of all in our community. Not some, all. For those who are still not getting the message, we've reached a point where the continued violations of these measures needs to stop. As many of you will know, I've been privately and publicly advocating for stronger provincial enforcement measures. I'm very pleased the Premier is announcing these measures today, and I want to say thank you to Premier Pallister. As I've indicated, we're in full support, and we have been, and we're willing to do our part as a municipal government. Starting Saturday, we'll be initiating a community service ambassador program that will get ambassadors out in the community to look for, to help educate, and create awareness to those who are not respecting the public health directions. This includes closed city areas like athletic fields, skate parks, play structures, and picnic shelters. It's important to note these ambassadors will not be handing out tickets. If these ambassadors are unsuccessful in dispersing people from these areas, we'll be utilizing our bylaw enforcement officers to start warning and ticketing those who will be making use of the closed city facilities with penalties of up to $1,000 and the potential of up to 6 months imprisonment. These measures will support and complement the enforcement measures enacted by the province once their legislative changes are addressed next week. The bylaw enforcement officers will likely expand their activities across the city. I also understand, as the Premier's indicated, Manitoba Justice is in ongoing dialogue with enforcement agencies such as the Winnipeg Police Service to enhance enforcement. As many of you know, health is an area of provincial responsibility, but during this pandemic, and as always, we absolutely have to. In fact, our citizens expect us to be working together, and we are. We're demonstrating today our municipal government's prepared to support the provincial efforts in a meaningful way. And of course, we trust provincial government in due course will provide financial assistance to the City of Winnipeg for those health-related services that we're undertaking on their behalf. We don't take this step lightly. However, those who are not getting the message are putting others at risk and undermining the incredible work of so many in our community. And I want to stress that I'm still hopeful that it doesn't come to requiring enforcement. I think we'd all prefer to get full community buy-in, and enforcement wouldn't be needed. But if it is needed, these measures will help keep Winnipeggers, in fact Manitobans, safe. And I want to just conclude by underscoring the messaging from our Premier and from public health officials of the importance to stay home. I know this weekend with Passover and with Easter, a time that we typically get together with family and friends, I want to just underscore the urgent need for people to stay home, find alternate ways of connecting, whether it's on FaceTime or Zoom or just over the phone. Do what you can to protect the health and safety of not only yourself and your family, but our community. And I want Winnipeggers to know that all levels of government, federal, provincial, and municipal governments, are collaborating and are working diligently to protect their health and well-being at this time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Premier.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks again, not only to Brian, but to all our local municipal governments and the representatives that are serving there. I think in the midst of this pandemic, there's a danger that we forget that these local governments are delivering services on many, many other fronts in addition to those directly related to the pandemic, and they have stepped up. They have demonstrated their willingness to serve the people of their jurisdictions very, very well, and I think that they've impressed all of us. Speaking of impressed, I want to say also for the record that we have had virtually no complaints about small businesses. And I want to emphasize in particular our thanks to them. Many of these small businesses are suffering tremendously right now. Many who work in them have lost their jobs or have seen reduced hours, and paychecks matter to people. And so for all of us, we need to appreciate and I think say thank you to the family, mostly family-run small businesses around our province. The reality is they're our foundation of our economy, and they are in distress right now. And so thank you to them for stepping up and helping. They are tremendous. We have taken some significant steps specifically for small businesses and their employees and their families in the last number of days and weeks. And I know that Manitobans support those measures because they understand how critically important small businesses are to our province. So we are going to continue to do so as we invest more today and tomorrow in very significant ways in things like procuring online, or not online all, but procuring important frontline goods and services, and also making significant additional investments, as we announced yesterday, for example, in research. In saying this, I am making sure Manitobans understand that although we are, all of us, up to our armpits and alligators right now, we are not ignoring the longer term. And we are very, very interested in making sure that we make the steps, take the steps necessary to protect people today, but also to protect our province and our services as we move forward as well. We have made literally hundreds of millions of dollars available as a province in just the last 3 weeks, and I would say it is very clear that next week we are going to have to make even more resources available, and that will happen when we reconvene our legislature on Wednesday, I anticipate. Our House leaders are in discussion as we speak, so there'll be more I expect to report on that later today. I've used the analogy before because I come from a sports background. You don't learn about your team so much in easy times, but you do learn about your team in challenging times. And what I'm learning is that our people in Manitoba want to work together and are. They're stepping up and they're demonstrating the quality that I think is not exclusive to Manitoba, but I think very much a source of pride for us in Manitoba. We're stepping up and we're helping each other in the thousands. We're volunteering. We're doing the things necessary to keep each other safe and ourselves safe. And so today is a bit of a sad course of action made necessary by the very, very few in our province, to the 99th percentile and plus. I want to say thank you, and I know the mayor would agree 100%, and say thank you to Manitobans for their wonderful qualities.